Hello, Scruffy fam. I hope you all are doing wonderful. Today, we're going to talk about why would you ever use a muzzle brake? Well, let's talk about why. Alright guys, so in my video where I talked about my new Winchester Model 70 and 270 Winchester, I mentioned on there that I had been firing so many rifles with muzzle brakes on them lately that I kind of got surprised by the recoil of the 270. I actually got some messages about that of, oh, the 270 doesn't kick bad, what are you talking about, that's not that much recoil, all this other stuff. Well, that got me into another thought, and I was, let me adjust here, so I was watching some other YouTubers, and you hear them talk about all the time about how you can reduce recoil. And I just did a video on my Ruger M77 in 338 Win Mag, and I talked about, you know, reducing the recoil on that thing. I put a Limb Saver recoil pad on it, and then I actually got the barrel threaded to put a muzzle brake on it. And, you know, that no one seemed to have a problem with. I think especially if you shot a 338 Win Mag, if you shoot a 338 Win Mag with a brake and without a brake, I guarantee you're going to want the brake on it. But then, you know, I've heard a lot too that if you're that guy at the range or that gal at the range and you've got a muzzle brake and the people next to you just really don't like it because it's so loud and it pushes all this gas and energy out. And I'll tell you what, it really does. I did a video with my 6.5 PRC that I've got sitting right here next to me, and I shot it and it sent stuff flying everywhere, hit me in the face with the empty box, and I did a little slow-mo of that. But what that shows you is that it's doing its job. Now, I go to our range a lot, and I will tell you that half the firearms there have muzzle brakes or muzzle devices on them. I do not have a silencer. That's something that I will probably get at some point. We're moving, so it doesn't make sense for me to start that process now because I'll be in a different state. I'll just start that process once we get moved. But I want to talk about today why you would do a muzzle brake, and would I hunt with a muzzle brake? I actually heard a couple people and different YouTubers and pretty big name YouTubers say that they do not hunt with a muzzle brake. And a lot of that reason is because they're not wearing ear protection. Now, I have my Axle Ear Pro that I wear, and when I'm hunting, I wear that because it's got hearing enhancement. And so for me, that doesn't matter. And then some people say anytime you're shooting with a muzzle brake, you need to double up on your ear protection. And I think that's a mixed bag. There's a certain amount of decibel drop that hearing protection does. Now, I will say that I've been very impressed with the Axle GS Extreme, and I actually use the highest foam that they recommend just because I have tinnitus, I have hearing loss already. I don't want any more of that, so I use that. And it is the highest rated one. And so if you have that, it's going to dissipate everything. And if you're outside versus inside, you know, there's a lot of different factors. But let's go into my firearms, the calibers that I have brakes on and the calibers I don't have brakes on, and I'll explain to you guys why. So let's talk about two that I've got up on the table. And the reason I picked these two first is because ballistically, they are very, very similar, and there's been a ton of conversations about these two calibers specifically. But let's take a look here. So first up, I've got my 6.5 PRC. So this is a Mossberg Patriot Predator barreled action, and it came with a threaded barrel. So I put an Area 419 Hellfire muzzle brake on here, 3-port, and I did that because I'm turning this into a competition long-range rifle. And I want to negate the amount of barrel lift and loss of sight picture as much as humanly possible. Now, when I did the sighting in and ammo test, I actually left the camera on the muzzle so you guys could see how much it didn't move. And I will tell you that even some of the old timers at the range, when they were watching me shoot this, they were like, wow, it doesn't move. And I'll tell you what, it doesn't. I don't lose my sight picture at all when I'm shooting this. You get that initial shot, but because I am locked onto my target, I may move just a little bit, but it's very, very minimal with the 6.5 PRC with this muzzle brake. Comparatively, we have my Model 70 and 270 Winchester. This is a collector's item. It did not come with the threaded barrel. This was made in 2011. They weren't doing that very much yet. And this is the one that I took to the range, and I commented that it recoiled and I felt it. And it's not a ton of recoil. It's not something that I can't handle, but it was enough recoil that I paid attention. And someone actually messaged me and like, oh, well, are you going to put a brake on that? No, I am not going to put a brake on my Model 70. And the reason I'm not going to put a brake on this is because it's a collector's item. This is a Cabela's 50th anniversary, one of 500. There were only 500 of these things made. I am not going to alter this. You know, I love shooting it. This thing feels great. It fits me perfectly. I actually changed the scope out. We did a lot of scope swaps when I was getting scopes for the 22 competition one that I did. And so I decided to put a Nikon Pro Staff 3x9 on here, and it fits. It works perfectly. This rifle is a hunting rifle, okay? This is not a precision rifle. I'm looking to get that first shot, kill on something. I'm not worried about the muzzle brake on this, okay? I don't need a muzzle brake on my 270. It is not a precision shooting thing. I'm not worried about follow-up shots as much as I am in a competition setting where I'm putting multiple rounds down range and I need to keep that focus. So even with the recoil that this thing had, I am not going to put a muzzle brake on it. My 6.5 PRC, because I'm using as a long range competition type rifle, yes, I put a muzzle brake on it. Would I put a muzzle brake on the 6.5 PRC without it? I don't know. If the barrel wasn't threaded, I wouldn't thread the barrel to put a muzzle brake on it. Okay, so there's that. So let's pull out the next ones. Okay, guys, so now we have our next two. We've got my 1022 and my Ruger American in 243. So let's look at these guys real quick. So you've got my 1022 that we built this one for NRL 22 and precision rimfire. And then there is my 243. Okay, now this was the Ruger American Standard before we switched out the stock. Did not come with a threaded barrel. And then when we upgraded to the Shaw barrel, it's a Shaw match grade barrel, and I had the option of getting a threaded barrel or not, and I chose not to because I don't plan on running a can on this. You can get compensators on these, but there's no recoil on this thing. There's no recoil on the 22. I mean, it's ridiculous. I think you saw in the videos it moved just like a little tiny bit whenever I fired. And I have a steady enough platform here that I see absolutely no need to do that at this point. Now, if for some reason I shoot out this barrel, I need another barrel, which that should never happen. But if that does, maybe I'll get a threaded barrel and maybe we'll put a can on it at some later point. Now the 243, it didn't come with a threaded barrel, and I really do not see the need to spend the money to thread that barrel and put a muzzle brake on it. I don't. For the 243, it doesn't recoil that much anyways. And this is a really good entry rifle for my wife and for my kids. My wife has fired it, loves it. It doesn't have any recoil. For my 6-year-old, it's almost 7. We're going to start taking him to the range. He's going to start with the 22 just to get fundamentals down, but then he's going to go to the 243. It's not a big leap from the 22 to the 243 as far as shooting goes. So that, I see no point in putting a muzzle brake on it because the recoil is so light anyways, and it doesn't have a lot of barrel hop. There's no reason for me to put a muzzle brake on it. So I've only got 3 firearms that don't have muzzle brakes. Let's look at the next ones. Look at the next 2, and the next 2 are more of your tactical types. I have my AR, so here is my 5.56 223. We've seen this one in a couple videos, and on the end, it's got a flash suppressor, muzzle brake type thing, okay? And then we have my newest one. You guys get to see it all decked out now. My Ruger American Ranch in 7.62 by 39, and it's got a Hellfire muzzle brake on it. Now, a 223 has even less recoil than a 243. So why in the world would you need a muzzle brake? Well, because it's an AR platform, it's a gas-operated system, and you need somewhere for all those gases to go. So this helps mitigate that by hiding the flash, and so that's why you have that on the AR. On the 7.62 by 39, again, recoil is very minimal, but if you've ever fired an SKS or an AK, you get that fireball out there. And so what I'm looking to do is suppress that flash just as much on the 7.62 by 39 on my Ruger American Ranch. So by doing this Hellfire muzzle brake on here, what that's going to do is that's just going to dissipate all of that so that I don't get this massive signature, because this is going to be my hog hunting rifle. I want to be able to get follow-up shots very quickly. I think this is a great caliber for feral hog hunting, especially walking through all the brush and stuff. So when I get to Texas, there's public land that has a lot of feral hogs on it, but it's going to be some backcountry hiking. So this thing is super light. Even by putting the optic on here, this is still really, really light, and the balance is awesome. So by putting this muzzle brake on here, I will be able to take a shot. It'll keep the barrel nice and level so I won't come off. I can rack another one and get another shot off, and I can do that fairly quickly. So for the brush gun hunting application, having something that you can keep a flat muzzle on while you're shooting is super, super important. And being able to get those good follow-up shots quickly, that's something I'm really excited about. Now we're going to test this. Once I get all the ammo for this thing, we're going to go to the range, we're going to shoot this, and we're going to look and see how much this muzzle moves. I doubt it's going to move very much. On the AR platform, same type of deal. When I was in the military, we had these exact same flash hiders, and man, I can put a lot of rounds downrange very quickly without a lot of barrel jump and lift. That's what you're trying to negate with that. That doesn't really, there's no recoil in an AR platform with a 223 between this flash suppressor and muzzle brake, and then the recoil spring that goes here through the buffer tube. It doesn't move. There's absolutely no recoil whatsoever on this, which makes it another option for my 7-year-old to shoot, or even this 7.62 by 39 or the 243. We'll see. But those two have more tactical applications, and so they have the muzzle brakes on there so that I don't get a lot of barrel lift and it stays flat. And it dissipates that energy in that fireball, so I'm not getting that fireball right in front and blaring out my optics. Alright, so let's look at the last two. The last two we have are my Ruger American Hunter in 308, and then my Ruger M77 in 338. Now, I just had this one done, so I paid to thread the barrel and put this muzzle brake on. And you see it's a 4-port. And then this came on this model, and it's the Ruger Precision Hybrid muzzle brake. Okay. Now, putting a brake on a 308 is debatable. I mean, the 308 has a, I mean, 270 and 308 are very, very comparable in recoil. I had my Winchester XPR 308 did not have a brake on it. I had absolutely no problems firing that and staying on target. I will say that the muzzle jumped a little bit more. I posted a video of why this Ruger American Hunter was my favorite rifle to shoot. I love taking this 308 to the range and shooting it because it fits me, and there is hardly any recoil. When I shoot this, I'm talking about just I'm not moving so far off the target that I can't reacquire it very quickly. There's a lot that goes into that. It's heavy. This is a very heavy rifle. It's about 12 pounds with everything as it is right now. And it has this brake on it that does a very good job of keeping the muzzle down and dissipating that energy so that the recoil is very, very minimal. So for this, it came already with the brake on it. So the threaded barrel, brake was already on it. I didn't have to do any of that. It was already there. If this wasn't threaded and I had it in 308, would I pay to have it threaded? Well, I experienced that. Winchester XPR in 308, and no, I didn't. I didn't thread that barrel and put a brake on it. And shooting that and shooting this, I will tell you that once I got this one, I stopped firing that Winchester XPR. And in fact, I ended up gifting that to someone that needed a rifle. So I would prefer shooting it with the brake. I like the amount of control that it gives me when I'm shooting it. Now, I paid to have the muzzle brake put on the 338 Win Mag, okay? I paid to have that done for good reason. It is my strongest recoiling rifle by far and away. And shooting that thing, if you don't have some way to mitigate the recoil, what this does to people is it gives them the flinch. Now, I have fired a lot. I've fired heavy recoiling things a lot, so I don't get the flinch. But what I can tell you is that it is not pleasurable to put 20 rounds through this thing. By the time you're done, you know that you shot a 338 Win Mag. If any of you have fired a 300 Win Mag, a 7 Rem Mag, it has more recoil than those, okay? So finding a way to dissipate that energy, that is why we went with the muzzle brake on the 338 Win Mag. Now, when Tasha saw me fire this, it was we did the video of emptying the gun safe and going to the range for a date night, and she was very nervous about firing. I was like, hey, go ahead and fire it, because she shot everything else. I was like, go ahead and shoot the 338 Win Mag. She said, no. And I said, okay, I will. And so I got everything set up, had a bipod on it, was weighted into it, nice, good, solid cheek weld, shot, and even with the bipod and loading it, it jumped and sent a huge fireball out front. And she went, whoa. And I'm like, all right, I'll do it again. She's like, that didn't hurt? No, it didn't hurt. I've got a limb saver pad on it. I have a good cheek weld. I rode the recoil. I know what I'm doing there. So racked it back, went again, boom, same thing. And so after that, she was like, yep, getting a muzzle brake. So got the money together, saved up, talked to the gunsmith, got it done. Now, I was lucky enough to find some more ammo for the 338, so whenever that comes in, we'll go to the range, and I'll take you guys out with me. We'll do an ammo test, get this sighted in, and really see how much that muzzle brake makes a difference. So let's come full circle here and talk about would I hunt with a muzzle brake, and do I see it as a viable option for people when you're shooting? Now, as I progress more and more into my gunsmithing, I think that having a muzzle brake on a firearm will make it more enjoyable for you to shoot. It'll make it louder. It absolutely will make it louder. but it will make it more enjoyable to shoot. A muzzle brake will reduce the felt recoil by up to 50%. 50%. So that means that some people that aren't able to handle those bigger calibers that are for knocking down the bigger game, this could give them an option to do it. It's also a great way to take someone from a 243 into a 308 is to put a muzzle brake on it, or even a 30-06, put a muzzle brake on it. 270 Winchester, put a muzzle brake on it. You'll be able to do that. They'll be able to keep their shot and on target, plus you can actually spend time at the range, and you'll still feel very comfortable with everything going on. Now, if you look at people that compete in precision shooting, bench rest guys, I don't think are allowed to use, I know F-class you're not allowed to use muzzle brakes, but in PRS and NRL, you can. And you see a lot of people running muzzle brakes or suppressors. And they do that because it gives them control over the barrel lift. And it's super functional. So for hunting, would I use one? Yes. Absolutely, because I run Ear Pro all the time when I'm hunting. I want to be able to shoot, recycle, and be able to be on target just in case I need to be, or in a situation where I'm hunting feral hogs in Texas and I don't have a bag limit and there's a whole herd of them. I want to be able to rack and get additional shots off. So, guys, what I wanted to do today was talk to you about muzzle brakes, why I have them, what I think about them, and to put it all in perspective and wrap it all up in a tight little bundle, I would tell you that muzzle brakes give you an opportunity to shoot things that you may not normally shoot. You can get into some of the higher magnum calibers to go after some of the bigger game if you're willing to put a muzzle brake on something. Now, muzzle brakes are louder. They are much, much louder. You need to make sure you have good quality hearing protection when you go to the range to shoot them. I would not recommend shooting them inside. I would only shoot them outside. And if you're shooting next to someone, I would warn them, if they can't already tell, or go to a range that has the side curtains. Our conservation club has the side curtains, so those absorb all of that side area. But at the end of the day, I think a muzzle brake gives you an opportunity to be more accurate, not have as big of a flinch from the recoil, and fire calibers that you may avoid because you're worried about how much it's going to kick. So guys, I hope you like what you're seeing. Thank you for all of you that have subscribed so far. Please like, subscribe, give us a follow, and we'll see you guys next time.